Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coffee with Craig show. We'll be talking about commercial real estate in Central and Eastern Europe.
Are we chickens or are we pigs by hand? Chickens in the room or pigs in the room? Chickens. So involved. Yeah, right. Yeah.
I could ask a question if you give me 1 second of attention. Who thinks, as a world community, as people have limited time here, rented time to be on the earth, who thinks in this context we really should do something about the climate change? Hands up. Not all, but a lot. Okay, then who thinks, seeing the result of the COP28, we do already enough to fight climate change? Hands up. You see? That's it, 0. We are fully aware that what we do is not enough. That means the awareness to be not only engaged or involved, but also committed comes with the responsibility towards your partners, towards your friends, and towards your stakeholders. So if you need to issue an ESG report by CFO, and you need to disclose what you do as a company for that, because other than that, you will not get any money or you will not get any clients anymore, IKEA, right? If IKEA will not at least pretend they do something, they will not sell any furniture anymore. Even so, it's a cheap furniture, but it's a practical furniture, but they have a responsibility. That means sooner or later, and we don't know when the time comes, but you're 100% right. Nobody asked yet, right? But sooner or later, you will be forced to answer these questions, be it from the capital market, from your clients, or from your partners. And if you're not prepared, because it's a complex question, you have no alternative as not to deliver. Means if my neighbor on the street picks it up and delivers the add value, I'm out of business. It's a choice I can make today, but I can't make the choice in 2 years, because as soon my neighbor is doing this, he will harvest all the clients in to his property, and I will wonder, what did I wrong? Well, what I did wrong is I did nothing. I just ignored the fact, right? And the good news is it's not a crystal ball what we need for that, because the very beginning was, how is this recession and all this mess created? It was created 2, 3, 5 years ago. So what we see, it's like the tsunami starts in the middle of nowhere, but once it starts, you can't hold it, right? You can run up the hill and wait until it's over, or you can row out and dump over, or you can go through, but you can't avoid it. It's inevitable. It's done. And that means what we're facing now is not a guess or a plan or anything. We need to know as soon as sure Christmas comes, and everybody's surprised about Christmas. I didn't know that Christmas comes already, right? This will come as well. And this is why I'm so much into that, really committed into that, because I know it's coming, and the problem is it's coming much faster than we think it's coming. And that's the issue, right? So if we do not mobilize enough people following up the route, the fallout in the industry will be much, much higher.
Can I have just one more question? Do you know about any legislation plans in the EU trying to put some kind of one energy class for all the office buildings?
Energy performance certificates are 20 years old. So this is a very, very old regulation. What changes is now that Netherlands, for example, there is a ABCDE, right? This is basically what goes on each fridge stuff. This is a EPC, Energy Performance Certificate. Netherlands is on the forefront. If you do not comply to level C, you're forbidden from traffic. You can't rent it anymore. You can't finance anymore. It's out in 2024, 2 years. Great Britain is also there on the road. It will come to our part of the world a little bit later. But the problem is, if it's implemented in the Netherlands and you are an investor, let's say Blackstone, and you have a choice where to put your money, where would you put it? In a level C building in Netherlands, which is full compliant, or in a level D building in Poland, which is not compliant at all, with this energy mix what we have as an at disadvantage, right? So you will put it not to Poland. That means for us, as here in Poland, to stay in the game, we need to be much better than Netherlands, because their energy mix is much more healthier in terms of carbon emission than the Polish, right? Yeah. So it even triggers action on a much higher level. So we can't sit and say, oh, until it comes to, I talked to Hubert Abt. Hubert Abt is active in CEE, and they're active in London. So if you're talking to the architect from Hubert Abt, the developer in Bratislava, he tells you his learning curve in London is this, like a rocket, very steep. Because what he want to say, in CEE, the requirements from the tenants and from the banks are not as high as in London. But now it comes again. If somebody sits in London and needs to decide where he spends the 100 million ticket, either in London to a full compliant building or in Warsaw to a non-compliant building, where he will spend the money. That means to be able to not basically try out, my pipeline on capital and an exit, I need to comply. And even let's assume our clients would not demand it. Let's assume for a moment we know that the flex basket up to 20 workstation is kind of resilient to adapt that shit, right? They want to have low prices and that's it. Let's assume we keep the utilization high. If I can't exit my building anymore because there's nobody who buys it, international money, the banker will not finance it. Because the assumption to finance it is a value. And there is no loan to value ratio anymore because there is no buyer. You have a trouble, you need to have more equity, right? So it's a ripple up effect. Equity for ESG compliance, stranded risk, 40% is jeopardized of the value which we saw. That's McKinsey, right? Then we have utilization, 40% only utilization instead of 60, 70% as before. Then we have higher energy prices, service charges, which goes against the rent. There is no add value with a higher service charge. It's only higher costs, right? And now we have a loan to value ratio. So it comes one stone off the other, and this is causing this transformation risk. This is why it's getting so dangerous. That one leads to the other, and once it's there, it's like the avalanche, you have no choice. If the avalanche comes down, there's no chance, right? It's there. And this is why I trigger it so much, that even so the tenants, maybe I guess Steve Jobs said it once, in a way, maybe the client is not ready for the product, but you need, if they understand the add value, they will adopt it, okay? It was kind of that context. And I guess basically it's the same here with space as a service towards space as an office. Okay.
Yeah. There's never anyone renting space saying, "Oh, give us all this information," but it is the investors in the capital markets that are demanding it now.
The first landlord or flex office operator who starts issuing, we try to, from 1st of January. I want to actually do it from 1st of October. But of course, we also have our issues to go over this resilience. But for sure, from next year, we will issue which each offer a comparison on the carbon emission, on the energy costs, and everything else. Right? And we will see if clients appreciate it or it. I'm sure they will find it interesting and ask questions. And if this only leads to the fact that we do not talk about discounts anymore, but on add value, we reached our goal already, okay? Because the funny part is, in US, they have a saying, you can't afford not to do it. And what they mean is, you can't afford not to follow that path, because either you will be out of business, or B, you will miss a big opportunity to make additional money, because every challenge brings opportunities with it, right?
Yeah, the idea to include the ESG to the offers in any kind of kind, and so on, showing that this building is doing much more better than other ones, just they are commenting into it. there could be argument for sure that for the Scandinavian business and so on, they really take attention to it, and yeah, could be. Yeah. I'll start talking about it for sure.
I mean, listen, you go to a restaurant and on the menu you see the kilocalories. As soon you see that, you avoid certain things to eat because you realize it's not good for me. But you had this information before as well, right? You knew that the burger is not the light meal. But if you see the 1,250 kilocalories, you say, maybe today I skip that. And this is how you change user behavior with additional information. And it's exactly the same.
Yeah, and it's not only going to be real estate. I mean, we have people that buy tickets for our events. No one's asked me for an ESG report when they're buying a ticket, but there is a few international sponsors that have asked us for it, and that we were able to provide it because the hotel has it. But if we were dealing with a local hotel that we really loved and they didn't have an ESG report, we'd have to switch hotels. I mean, no one said that, but I'm sure it's coming that way. They're asking, and if we didn't send them a report, I'm not so sure they would be sponsoring it.
Yeah.
I mean, not many, but there is a few of the big ones that are international companies that, it's just going it's being stapled to the, hey, we're sponsoring this event. For sure they're doing it with everything. And did anyone open it? Probably not. But the fact that it was from the Interconti or the Marriott or Radisson in some cases, they're assuming it's being done, and I think they are doing it. I mean, I think the hotels are doing more and more,
This is
and they're taking it seriously, not necessarily because we're asking. Yeah, I'm probably looking at it thinking, oh, not that many, not that many organizers are asking. The reason we even thought of asking is because we were being asked.
the biggest meat processing factory in Germany. What do you think? How much percentage of the revenues goes with vegan products now? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50? 50. 50. They started 10 years ago. It's a meat processing company. It's not a farm, okay? They're processing meat. But 50% of their entire production is already vegan. This is where they make the highest margin. This is where they make the entire profit. Tesla is a car manufacturer. Where are they making the profit? With energy. If Robert would be here from Panattoni, my advice, Robert, take what you built so far and put every power pack into, it's huge. We have thousands of square meters of roof, of surroundings, of landscape. This is a power plant for me. This is renewable energy production. And I'm sure if we would make that business plan in 10 years from now, Panattoni would be an energy company, not a logistic company anymore. And the good news is, this is every year again where you bill for renewables. Logistic, you sell once. Energy, you sell every day, right? And this is the same with the add value proposition. If I have a subscription model for a tenant, they use it as they go. But what I do with that, I create an ownership between the tenant and me. I build up trust. I build up a relation. And that tenant will not go anywhere else. If you sign once on Netflix, where you want to go there? There is no way to go anywhere because you're getting so nicely pampered with quality, with new contents, everything. You're going to the Polish state TV maybe to watch the news, but not to watch a film anymore. Because the add value proposition is so good that you say, I happily pay additional for it because it's so convenient to watch the film everywhere. Spotify, this is all which created service, right? Content, service, add value proposition. This is about, it's not about the space and it's not about the property. And we need to overcome that.
So Hubert, how do you see your business in the next 5 years? Let's say we're looking at, let's say 2028. Where are you? Where is the business for this region?
We saw for this year 400% increase in demand,
Mm-hmm.
average. Sales was up First quarter 300%, second quarter 130%, third quarter was completely fucked with minus 100. Fourth quarter was again up to 150 to last year, okay? Was not pre-COVID, to last year. I mean, from last year, it's easy to make 200%, kind of, right? But still, last year was not the worst year we saw. The year before was basically the worst what we saw. That means, and the funny part is, if you divide this demand in corporate basket and flex basket, the corporate basket is the one which is growing. The flex basket remains the same. So where does it come from? It's only one source. Corporate clients, which are forced to renew their lease, adjust their workplace needs towards these benchmarks: energy, work from home, costs, long-term obligations, okay? There was no point ESG, right? It was only costs. And they come to the conclusion, we do not need this space anymore. We need to flexibilize our space. And this is only the first step towards space as a service, right? It's only one step out of this 100% core commitment, which usually leads to 60, 70% of core, means 30, 40% reduction of core lease. And the rest goes with services surrounding. So in a nutshell, I think in 5 years, we have 100% of the market turnover, assuming that 5 years is the remaining lease period, kind of.
I think a lot of them have already come up. They're just extending them because of COVID. Yeah.
So in 5 years, we will be on the prediction of Jones Lang that 30% of the office stock is flex. Yeah, because in 5 years, we're turning 100% of the leases 100%, right? Every year, 20%. And with this environment now, you have no choice. You will not extend your lease for additional 5 years on 100% of the core space. It looks like some people do. If you see Spire unit and the top properties, but in fact, if you walk around here or in other sub-markets, it's not, right? And you talk to after Expo, they say it was the last waltz of the dance, right?
Yeah, right.
You saw really, and as I said yesterday in this summit, if they are off record, they tell you, yeah, we struggle a lot. And if you talk to the giants, to the Allianz, to the Commerzreals, to the House Invests, to the big, big asset holders, they see it. They really see it, that tenants are reluctant to extend for an additional 5 years and to stay with 100% core commitment. So I say Jones Lang is right. In 5 years from now, we have 30% market share, while today we have 2, 3, 4, depends a bit, talking about Poland. London, of course, is much higher, 12%. Amsterdam, much higher. But for this region where we operate, it will increase significantly.
So looks like you'll be taking over a lot of big leases and then figuring out how to divide up this space or make it more flexible. Yeah.
Yeah, as I said, the proposition is forget the office as a focus, bring the service in the focus. And by bringing the service in the focus, you come to digital tools, you come to shared economy. And by sharing means you do not need to have the full amount. Sharing a car, an average car is in use for 40 minutes a day. A shared car, Marcin, is in use 4 hours maybe, 10 times or 300% more, right? And this is exactly what happens with the office. Not with 100% again, but with a significant amount of the office sector.
So do you see a lot of your expansion being in buildings like this, a little bit out of the CBD, or do you see some more CBD expansion?
Well, we don't sign leases anymore. We're only making management and service agreements, and that is only possible if the tenant, if the landlord feels already enough heat. And has an experience, or like here, took us 2.5 years to convince Commerzreal to get the management contract because it was not in their policy. It was 2.5 years of digging, and the fact that it's only, I don't know, was it 5% here or 3% of the space what we occupy, these 1,000 square meters, it's not changing their life, right? So it means they can't lose. If we are not successful after 1 year, we will go out again. That's the deal. But we have 1 year to prove that we can succeed, right? We can reach a certain level of headline rent, which we then, of course, will deliver, right? And that's the part. So what can a landlord lose to give it a try if it's empty anyway? Nothing, right? But you need to make the effort to convince them that it's the right path. So the question or the answer of the question is, it's more or less up to the readiness of the landlords to take it. But I can tell you for next year, we have already 4 commitments, which we will execute on this level. And the year didn't start. So I'm predicting that it's getting more.
Right. Well, I guess
from
if
this side.
Commerce Bank, if it works, Commerce Bank is happy. You've got a whole portfolio of places.
Yeah, it's
to
not only
look
about
at.
us. I mean, also other players. You know, if you do not cover Krakow or Tri-City or Poznan, or then other players have also. You know, I would wish that the industry speaks with one language, right? The problem only appears if somebody comes and say, "Oh, they just signed a lease." They say, "Oh yeah, well, maybe some operators still signing leases because they have a different structure of ownership or financing or something like that, or they have a different site of the market." But for us, it's not anymore who is the biggest and the fastest like 2019 when WeWork was there, Spaces was there, Mindspace was there. We've been there signing a lease basically every month, completely out of mind, right? Just to be in the track of the race. That's not going to happen anymore. We're talking about quality, not the quantity anymore in this context.
And you mentioned that some of these shopping centers are also opening offices or opening, some serviced offices in some of the shopping centers. How do you see that working, or what kind of clients or what kind of employees are going to those places?
Um, Shopping center is really a really good example for the office industry because everybody who observes what the shopping center manager is doing and where they're creating add value and how they're making their profits, return on investment, is only hands-on management of the single tenant needs. This is what the shopping center manager is doing. He will not get enough result leasing a space to MediaMarkt. They will not pay him enough money to pay back the investment. He only makes more money by turnover rents of the smaller units. And why is a tenant ready to pay 40 euro instead of 20 euro in a shopping mall? Because he knows that the attractiveness of the shopping mall, of the agglomeration of amenities and services, creates much more traffic than having a shop somewhere else, which allows him to make much more revenues per square meter, which allows him to pay a higher rent. So the idea of a turnover rent is already implemented in the industry, just not in the office industry, only in the retail industry. But how to manage an office building, you can learn from a shopping center manager. Now coming to the question why the retailer coming and want to put workspace into their portfolio, it's only an add value proposition again, because they want to attract more traffic, or basically they want to make their existing clients staying longer by sitting in the space and working, because it's proven as longer you stay in the shopping center, as more money you spend in the shopping center, right? Simple. This is really simple. So all they do is to attract more they provide more quality, more services to getting more customers in to spend more money.
Yeah, half of them are sitting at the coffee shop anyway with the
Yeah,
computer
the
on.
problem on the coffee shop is you can't focus. You always have some music. You always somebody comes around your shoulder. So you need to have a dedicated workspace there. But it's not the fact that people go to a shopping mall for work purpose. They will use it if they can do it easily with the Office Pass, digital, and just because the Auchan and the Tesco and all these core tenants, they have the customers already. They're going there frequently to shop. You 80% of the time, you're always going to the same shopping mall. You do not change, because in the food store, you know where the particular milk and products, which is 80% of your weekly shopping basket, are placed, right? So once you're there, you always go there. So does make more sense to attract these existing clients coming every week or every day or every twice a week, to attract them to stay longer.
Mm-hmm.
That's the idea, at least, what we provide to these operators. We do not believe that you are able to make a sustainable operation on a 400 square meter work spot, call it work spot, and making enough revenues, to pay the bills. I guess this is who thinks that, I don't know, never really made analysis of
Right.
a business plan here, but this is our approach.
And just, I know a lot of the same developers that and a lot of same owners that and I'm sure you've showed them this presentation. What percentage, or if you want to even tell us which ones, but what percentage of these guys, and I know them pretty well, are like, wow, that's really a revolution. I really want to start focusing on customer needs
Yeah.
and not on the real estate space.
Customer needs goes as long it comes to the desk of the CFO, and then it's getting killed.
Right. Okay. So pretty quick. Pretty quick it's over, yeah. Okay.
Pretty quick. So I discussed yesterday with a Resi for Rent developer
Mhm.
a sustainable product, Resi for Rent. Again, geothermy, water reusage,
Mhm. Mhm.
timber as construction, solar panel, showers, commuting, community area, stuff like that, and also of course workspace. Right. The question was the same: how do I make money out the workspace?
Mhm.
Right. So well, link it to your coffee shop and make it as a meeting room which everybody can book, and you have the money. Right.
Mhm.
But again, add value proposition. Because in South Africa, there is a coffee chain, it's called Bootlegger, like Smuggler. And if you're going to, let's say 50 bootleggers around Cape Town, every bootlegger is booked from 8 till 11 in the morning by business people because they have these slidable walls and they make meeting rooms. And of course, it makes totally sense to go in a coffee shop and have a business meeting which serves a totally amazing coffee, and you have a different environment as in the office, right? And this is the add value of the coffee shop. And of course, if the meeting is over, they open that and everybody can enter, right? So they have more space. And this is what I told them, right?
Mhm.
And the question was, oh, where's the bootlegger then in Poland? They say, well, they will not come over there in South Africa, but you can do it here as well, right? So what I want to say, whatever you do, how coming new things in the world, everybody will ask you, where can I see it, right? And you really need to go out with open eyes and just snapshot some things which you see on the road, somewhere you travel, somewhere in the web, in the TVs, or somewhere else. I do so much snapshots with the computer, where just in the presentations, which gives me new ideas, because of course it's much more easy to make a proposition for something which is already working and existing, right? But I can promise you, nothing of that stuff is new. This stuff is 10 years and older already. Just it's not commonly used. Okay? And we only are able to sell it as an add value because it's not implemented yet, and because the energy prices are so high, the inflation is there, we had the lockdowns. So every invention, I would so say so, has its time,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I guess Amazon was built up as a copy shop with videos, right? Or a library or
Library,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
And now look what it is, right? And that was only because it was the right timing. By the way, there is a study from Stanford University about the success and the failure rate of startups. And number one is not finance, management, product, invention. Number one is timing. That's the success factor number one. You need to be in the right time. And I'm 100% sure we're just in the right time to talk about that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, sure. Well, the more expensive the energy gets, the more motivated everyone is, right?
Yeah, it's the wrong cause, it's the wrong motivation, but it leads to the same result, right? We don't talk about carbon, we talk about energy prices. For me, if it fits the bill, it's perfectly fine. I don't want to talk about carbon because carbon is somewhere in the air, but energy bill comes every month, right? So let's talk about energy bill. If it leads to the same result, perfectly fine. 20% impact, 80% result.
Any questions? Any comments from the audience? Any pearls of wisdom?
Maybe a question for me.
Yes.
Expanding a lot in the next year, hopefully. And yeah, that the landlords are not really yet making enough investments maybe in the ESG or transformation of their buildings. But will you be asking them questions? What are you doing? How are you preparing your building? Because then, yes, in the 2 years, it may not be suitable for your needs, for your reporting investors.
I mean, you only can. Now,
Somebody is asking, are you going to improve the chillers?
yes, I'm a big fan of pragmatic approaches. And as I said, as soon the neighbor will do it, they will ask you. Submarket Mokotov, somebody starts, and it's the same prospect scanning 5 locations because they want to be a Mokotov, right? And they will ask, why don't you offer me? I saw that one just next door. Best case, they ask. Worst case, you will not find out why they signed up there. Okay? So it's this avalanche effect. It starts with a snowball, and as more it's rolling, as bigger it gets. And sooner or later, it's get visible for everybody. But you're absolutely right. It's very hard to go through the organizations to the resilient administration over the desk of the CFO to get there, right? But that was the conclusion of yesterday's discussion. I say, guys, you need minimum 2 years, if not 3 years, to purchase a plot of land to get the permission and deliver the product. Now, if they know what's coming in 3 years from now, if they're going with the old standards, they will deliver in 3 years a product nobody will appreciate anymore. So why not investing 5% more and creating a product which then is just in time? I guess it was Capital Park. They did this last development along Yerosominsky, right, where this ugly blue post-communist building stands, and that was the last of their Ecuador developments. And the CFO, he told me that there was a big discussions to go for green, and that was additional 6 or 8% of the costs. And they did it. That's 6 years ago. And when they sold it 4 years later, it appeared that it was a big demand from investors for green products because they could pay 20% above the market because they financed it due to green bonds. But the green bond, you only can issue if a green product in the first place, right? So the 8% more costs was rewarded by 20% more purchase price. And if you know they have 50 or 40% margin,
I was going to say it's probably 50%
that
more
means
profit. Yeah.
this 8% they got back 6 times, right? And this is why the Americans say you can't afford not to do it, because in America everything is about business, how I make money, right? It's not about add value; it's about making money. And that's clear. If the space is utilized, you're making money. If the space is empty, you don't make money.
Very good point. Exactly. I'm going to the U.S. on 2 days, and that's exactly what they're talking about. And all the meetings that are set up, it's like, how do we make money, and what are we doing to make more money? And
It's all about it.
and actually, ESG is actually not a cost to them.
No,
We're talking to a lot
it's
of
a
these.
purpose to make business.
I'm talking to a lot of these developers, and 8 of them are billion-dollar developments. 8 that I'm meeting the guys, and they're all talking about how they're making money on ESG compliance. Not,
Yeah.
and in Europe, it's more like, oh, what's that going to cost us?
Yes,
It's
exactly.
like completely different minds.
It's just it's the same thing, just from 2 tables, right? And I always tell our sales guys, you need to sit on the other side of the table where the client sits and ask exactly the questions yourself, what the client maybe perceive, right? What is the add value proposition? And then you can make a tailor-made offer, but only then, right? So listen, this is the greatest value of a salesperson, is to listen, not to speak, of course, to analyze the needs. And they doing exactly the same as they. it's uninventable, so let's make money with it. Full stop.
And I'm talking to some of the agents in the US, and yeah, probably exactly what you said. None of the clients are asking, "Oh, is this an ESG compliant building?" But they're bringing it up. They're telling the clients when they're coming to look at offices, they're like, "Look, here's 2 of them that are ESG compliant, here's 3 that aren't, here's where you should go." And they're making it like more of a story or more of a, a priority, and they're just saying, look, you're whatever company, if it's international, like look, you got to go into these 2 or 3, probably the agents making the same commission on it, but they're like, look, you've got to go into this, ESG compliant building. There's 2 or 3 choices, then there's some other ones, and I'm sure they're just writing off these other ones, but I mean, they're giving them a choice. And of course, the agents look better. They look more professional because they're like, look, this is where you should go because in 5 years, you're going to have to move anyway
Don't
or
for-
have issues.
don't forget the initial discussions. How can we bring people back into the office? Nobody wants to work in an environment which is not healthy. That means as soon somebody in the submarket makes the effort and sell that it's a completely healthy building in all terms of ESG, whatever, people will be happily going there. And again, you will lose against the benchmark in the submarket. This is already motivation enough for me to pull it out, right? And even so, it's only a fishernet carpet. Even only that gives you think, oh, but really, these fishernets, this is a really mess in the oceans. They're making carpets out of that, and that's just here. I feel good,
Yeah.
isn't it? Okay, so what? Was it 10 euros more for a carpet, which is usually 50 a square meter? 20% more spending, 25 more spending? But it makes totally sense to spend it, which you can't measure, but you will see by the judgment of the client, by the well-being, well-feeling, that it makes sense, right? And this is why I always said when it comes back to food, as soon Burger Kings and McDonald's of the world making vegan burgers, we made it. Because they have the marketing power to sell it as something good, right? And this is exactly what happens. More and more people choose it. And I guess even you go to Berlin, which is famous for sausage and kebab on the street, 60, 70% of that stuff is vegan. People demand it. They really demand it. They don't want to have the original stuff. They want to have the vegan stuff. And it's the same. You eat it, you don't taste the difference, but you know you do something good. And that's it. Not some people do it for themselves. Some people do it for the welfare of the animals. Some people do it for the welfare of ESG. I don't know. But it's not mattering what is the argument. Mattering is that you can sell it with a better margin, making business.
Mhm.
That's the American way.
Well,
Further.
Yeah, even two women that we just hired, I mean, happen to be women, but could have been guys, young ones. I was telling them a little bit about what we're doing and how we're doing everything, and actually they were like, okay, whatever. And then I said, well, part of our ESG policy is we're producing natural urban honey from the capital. And they were like, wow, okay, we'll go to work there. That's all it took. The rest of it they didn't even care about. They're like, oh, we want to do something for nature or something for the environment. And that was like, okay, we're coming.
Yeah.
I'm like, I could have just said that at the beginning. you know. The other stuff didn't, it was like they could do it. Yeah, but it was like, oh yeah, we're producing our own honey. It's ESG compliant, no bees being hurt in the process, no pesticides, no anything, and all urban development. And that's all it took. They were like, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
And
No,
they started.
it really matters. I mean, if I go to the Starbucks, I say no lid. Why do I need a lid to drink a coffee? I really don't need a lid, right? Makes it a difference? No, it doesn't make a difference if you're counting all the Starbucks of the world. But if you start not to ask for a lid, maybe they come to a conclusion not to provide a lid on the first place, but let the client decide to put a lid on it, right? And I'm sure only with that you will change, or you will avoid 30% of all the lids which are putting out with the coffee, because some people just decide I don't need a lid.
Some of them already make them paper, like recyclable and not
Yeah,
plastic.
Yeah.
exactly.
I have experienced that. Yeah, I just wanted to say one more thing that like came to me after this discussion, and my conclusion would be that I guess it all starts with the awareness because when it comes to the clients, because when I build a relationship with a client, it seems like my job is at the same time to make them aware of this topic and to change their, I would say, attitude. Because I think there is some kind of a myth or some kind of a stereotype that this whole ESG, that this like seems to be like a noise, because some people have heard about it, but I think they some might think that it's like time consuming and that it can be very like in a financial issue like costly, and then and probably they don't really realize that in the future it can be rewarding.
Yeah.
So
I,
it's
I guess what Karina
yeah,
want to say, it all starts with awareness, and there is no engagement without awareness, right? And there is no action without engagement. So you need to start raise awareness. That's the first step. And by raising the awareness, you're getting engagement and you force action. Only this is how human beings working, right? So start with the awareness, and it doesn't really matter if it's the bees or the lid on the coffee or the fishnet carpet. It really doesn't matter. Everything is better than nothing.
Yeah, and
Because
as an agent, if you just tell them, look, this building is one, this is another one that's not ESG, they're already giving them added value.
yeah,
They're
react.
going
I
to
mean,
use you forever after that.
if you do that, if you do the comparison, you will see immediately in the reaction of the client, they tentatively go for the higher quality, which is maybe not even proven, but maybe it's only softy. However, with the engagement, it comes an action. So it's a small snowball starts to get a big one. And as I said on the beginning, it's uninventable. It's not the choice. The only choice what we have is to adapt or not to adapt. Stay in the business or be out of the business. Making more money, making no money. That's the choice we have.
I like the making more money part.
we're American.
Yeah, I think just because my landlord wants the rent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, any more pearls of wisdom, or should we wrap it up and start with the nice wines that you have over there?
We're around. Let's have a little bit small talk.
All
And
right.
some
Well,
vegan
yeah, and some vegan. Yeah, I had some.
No sushi. Okay.
So thank you, and thank you all for coming. Big round of applause for everyone that came and take one of our Europa property bags with nice wine.
Click here to subscribe to the Coffee with Craig show, and don't forget to share it with your friends.